Good evening, everyone. Welcome to YCAF Knowledge Forum on Business Psychology. On behalf of the Governing Council of the Young Chartered Accountants Forum, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all our viewers across Facebook and Zoom. I'm Rajendra Uswata and I'll be your host this evening. Psychology plays a key role in everything we do or say. So today's session is actually focused on business psychology. We hope to cover a wide range of topics across business cycle, the principal subject of business psychology, and cover certain areas like emotional intelligence, personality psychology, and psychology in marketing. Our guest speaker this evening is Rasini Bandara. She is a psychologist, a lecturer, a public speaker, and personality development coach. Rasini has more than half a decade of experience in psychosocial assistance across many sectors. She's a director, counseling psychologist at Mind Heals, which is Sri Lanka's first online mental health care platform. Rasini has an array of academic and professional qualifications, including a MSc and a BSc specializing in the field of psychology. Welcome, Rasini, and it's a pleasure to have you this evening. I would like to kick off today.
Thank you, Rajendra.
So I would like to kick off today's discussion with something that is applicable to all of us. So Rasini, in your view, how important do you think it is to start your day on a positive note?
Okay. Not something we can do almost all the time these days. Rajendra, first of all, thank you so much, and the Institute of Chartered Accountants also. Like I said, that I'm very nervous today. I have a lot of questions to ask from you guys as well. So, like, you know, basically, like, so a lot of respect to you for the work that you all are doing, because I think I told you that I have a lot of respect for people who deal with numbers. Because I'm actually challenged in that. But like, to answer the question you've asked from me, how important it is to start your day with a positive note, I would like to actually change this terminology a bit, because we mostly speak about positive and negative these days a lot, right? And you know, we speak about positivity a lot, you know, be positive, stay strong, and all those things. You know, it's not a possibility all the time. And now, to a certain extent, Rajendra, it has become toxic positivity now, to be very honest, right? Because it's not something that we can actually maintain or start the day with, because life is very much unpredictable. You know, you might start your day like, oh my God, I can conquer the world, right? And in about another hour or two, right, especially when you expose yourself to news, and there you go. But I think something we should pretty much look forward to is living with optimism, right? Optimistic. I mean, if you build up your mindset to look at life in a very optimistic manner, even though that you have terrible, horrible all around you, still, I think you should be able to pretty much find a thing or two that you can absolutely enjoy. And I think this is a possibility. Even though that so many terrible, horrible things happen, at the end of the day, if you can focus on one or two things that brought a smile to your face, I think your day is pretty much productive. And so that should be the kind of mindset we all should build up in us. Rajendra, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. So just to add on to what you said, just do you think that sort of getting into a routine, like sort of a routine, or a constant routine on a daily basis, would sort of help us sort of build this mindset that you spoke about?
Well, yeah, I mean, a routine is always good, because now actually what suddenly happened to us was that, you know, this routine went for a 6. That's what, you know, a lot of people really started struggling. So a routine is good, but at the same time, we like uncertainty also. I mean, if you kind of think about it, didn't we enjoy, you know, when the whole quarantine situation just started, when the whole lockdown started? I think we enjoyed it. right?
To
We
some
love
extent, yeah.
exactly. We love the fact that we had to stay at home because we were complaining all the time regarding, I'm doing nothing else other than going to work, coming back home, sleeping. That's it. I don't have time to spend with my family. I don't even have time to read a proper book from start to end. I don't have time to sit down and watch a movie, right? Or have a very healthy conversation with the family members. We were complaining about so many things, and suddenly everything stopped, right? No work, no school, no university, right? You didn't even get utility bills coming in. And, loans were, all those installments were postponed. Yeah. But then everything started coming, floodgates open, and then we realized, oh boy, right? Because you could have monitored this through social media. I mean, initially, when we just started this pandemic, Rajendra, you could see the things that people used to post. They were taking haircuts, learning new things, cooking, and enjoying life. But then you could see how things were getting very negative in nature. People actually started really releasing all their frustrations and anger through hate speech, right? So nowadays, even something very small is enough to actually trigger so much of anxiety in people. So a routine is yes. So what we should get used to and adopt to is a routine, because from smaller days as individuals, we have actually got used to a certain routine, which then suddenly, came to a massive standstill. And we need another routine as well. So yes, a routine like that, and then a proper mindset to, accommodate to that routine, or else I would say complement that routine is absolutely essential.
Right. Great, Rasini. So moving on, let's talk about something to do with psychology. So something. So we start off our day, as we discussed, on a positive note. So that's important for psychology, and then we get on with our day. And then obviously with this whole pandemic situation, we have been working from home, and now we've gone back to offices, and there have been a lot of challenges. So basically, people have been stressed out, anxious, right, and a lot of issues that have been obviously partially brought about by the lockdown, and also some other things. So basically, say for example, you may have ad hoc work. So you go to office, or you get up in the morning with a to-do list, right? And then you have ad hoc work which comes in, and that really messes with your sort of sense of you plan your day, and then this whole thing comes and sort of flusters you, right? And then maybe even, for example, some things that we do, we ask for information on a particular timeline, and then the person who's supposed to give us the information delays it, and then ultimately we are crunched for time to do the task that we sort of had maybe 2 3 days to do, but now we have a few hours. So this may lead to a lot of mental stress, anxiety, and also people may feel very flustered in these situations. Also, so in other words, what this could lead to is maybe careless mistakes or errors in judgment. Sometimes it could cost people and companies. So in a situation like that, what is your take on dealing with scenarios like that, and sort of help us just understand what goes on in situations like that.
Oh boy, it literally threw like a massive nuclear bomb at me. Okay. So let's simplify this, Rajendra. I'll explain you. I'll kind of simplify the whole thing. Now, it's a very common topic that we talk about, stress, and it's absolutely normal. This particular, whole topic of stress is very normal. It's a very normal reaction that happens in the body for any challenging situation. So whatever a challenge comes our way, we experience a certain level of stress. Okay, so I'll very quickly explain what stress was earlier and what stress is now. Okay, so long time back, stress was, let's say, for example, Rajendra was in the hunters and the gatherers period. You are just taking a nice stroll in the jungle. Suddenly, a tiger jumps from nowhere, right? You have two things to do: either fight the tiger or run away from the tiger. There's a third option also: you can play dead, but I don't know how credible that is. So, you can pretend that, you're dead, and the tiger would sniff you and walk away. We have only heard it in stories. We don't have any real life experience. So then this is called the fight or flight response, which is something that a sort of a change that happens in your body. So if I'm to teach you a little bit of a science, right? So certain changes that happens in the body, what I meant was your sympathetic nervous system starts activating, that is preparing your body to fight a certain challenge. So the challenge was a tiger. So what happens is your pupils dilate, giving you a tunnel vision. So you don't have any other focus. It's very much direct. And then all the blood started pumping onto your heart. The circulatory system that is going on for your reproduction or digestion, everything cuts off and everything is pumped to the heart. Glucose is secreted to your bloodstream to give you all that energy for you to run. So this is the change. And then once you dealt with the situation, everything falls back to normal. So that time it was the tiger, but unfortunately nowadays, everything, like you said, most of all the things that you said, you suddenly go to work and then, something's thrown at you, you're, on your way to work in traffic, right? You're just, enjoying your lunch and suddenly an email just pops up saying a memo or something, or else some deadline or some sort of a thing like that. You get a call, you send a message to someone and it's delivered now, seen also, not responding, right? There you go. So everything is a tiger for you now. That's the problem. And stress is not something you have to go through. It's your choosing to go through. That is another thing. So stress is always perceived, right? If you look at something as a challenge and as something that's really threatening your well-being, right? That it will be stressful for you. So no matter what, whatever the situation, your body goes through the same process. That's the scary part. Now, if you kind of think about it, Rajendra, nowadays, what are the illnesses and sicknesses that we have very commonly in our society? High blood pressure, diabetes, gastritis problems, right? We have fertility problems. So why? When you kind of think about it, constant glucose being secreted to the bloodstream, no time for insulin to release, right? There you go, diabetes, right? All the blood being pumped to the heart, your heart is overworked, like high blood pressure and cardio-related issues, right? And then no blood flow happening to the reproductive system. So how on earth are you gonna get that reproductive system activated? So then fertility problems, right? Food is there in the stomach, but no blood to digest it. There you go, gastritis. Okay, so everything is pretty much mental health related. So this is something we need to understand. It's because of the fact that we have, replaced that tiger, right, with everything that happens to us. So you send a WhatsApp message to a friend or somebody, or let's say girlfriend or boyfriend, it's delivered, it's seen, no response back, and you're waiting for it. It's going like tiger. Oh my God, tiger. Tiger, tiger, oh shoot, email comes, tiger, right? Deadline, tiger, right? Your husband or wife comes and says that, here, I think that I need to talk to you. It's about something, right? And then, until evening, right? Tiger, 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 what this is. So there you go. So this is what actually happens to us. And many people think that, it's, you have to actually go through this. No, it's your choosing to go through this because of the level of importance, right? That you apply on those things, right? That's how it is. So for you, right, let's say for you, if an examination or a deadline is like a do or die situation, right, and your entire life depends on it kind of a situation, then yes, you're prone to experience stress more. For example, let's say you have a deadline and then you really get the courage to go and speak to your superiors or your team members, right, saying, look, this is not possible, right? I need support for this, right? If you are not giving support, then I'm unable to complete that on time. So you need to be very human at this point and then give me. If you take the courage to go to speak like that regarding your problems, right, to have like really healthy conversations, then your stress is lesser. But if you think that I should not talk about it because I'm definitely going to lose my job if I talk about it, right? Let me not talk about it. Let me just somehow suck it up and then, do this. Then yeah, your stress is much, much more, right? So this is how it is. So when you ask that question of how you are going to deal with all these things that comes to you, when we basically talk about psychology, Rajendra, we can't take away psychology from any of the subjects or any of the industries or fields. Why? Because you're dealing with people, right?
Exactly,
Even though you're dealing with, let's say, you're dealing with numbers, still if you're dealing with laptops, that's fine. Yes, let's say you're a computer engineer and all you do is you sit in front of a laptop and work. But still there are so many other things that's happening around you as well. You have to actually communicate whatever that you do to people, right? You need to communicate with your superiors, right? Even if you are the CEO of a company, you have to communicate to your employees, right? And I think pretty much, some people think that, when you're up there, right, on top of that ladder, right, then, you must be having a fantastic psych. I mean, absolutely not, because as you climb the ladder, you become a loner in life. There's very less people to pass that ball to. So you are very much responsible. So that's so stressful. Believe me, I have spoken to so many individuals, I mean, HR heads and all these people who have said that, it takes a piece of your heart when you have to type an email saying your job is no more, or else we need to go for pay cuts, because you know the struggle that these people go through. When you're down there, of course, you can pretty much even you can create a WhatsApp group and not include your boss, and then pretty much speak behind his or her back. That is possible. So what can the boss do, right? So there you go. So at any point in your life, whether you're a child, you're in adolescence, you're in your young adult, whether you're older, this psychology plays a massive role in our life. And at the same time, humans, we are social beings. So then it's not only our well-being or our psychology or how strong you are in terms of your mindset that matters. Everyone else's psychology plays a major role in your life. You must wake up every day, you must be like, oh yeah, I'm so great, I'm amazing. And then, you have your wife or your husband throwing a tantrum at you, that gets to you. You have your kids who's actually going through some sort of a difficult situation, or as would have lied to you and done something else, right? And then the teacher suddenly calls you and scolds you, saying, as parents, you should be looking into these things. There you go, your psychology, your mental well-being goes for a 6. So it's about all of these people. So, and at the same time, on top of that, we are a collectivist country. So everybody matters to us. Even your aunties, uncles, and the next door neighbors also. So the societal validation about you also really matters. Leave aside everything. What would the society think if I do this? Oh my God, what would they come and say? I mean, is it all right to do this? Will I be really labeled out there? Will my kids be labeled out there? And so should I do it? There you go. Right? So how can one pretty much have a very, very sound mentality to accommodate a day-to-day life? Is a very big, very complex kind of a situation. So how to come out of it? Do you want me to say that?
Maybe, yeah, just touch upon a few tools that people can use, and then maybe just a few tips on how we can manage.
Yeah, so I think Rajendra, okay, so sorry, guys, if I'm like explaining too much about it, but this is just very little. If you get me to talk about this topic, I can talk for hours and hours. But the thing is, so how can you build up a certain mindset to deal with these things? Is that it's a matter of practicing and understanding a concept that you have very less, I would say, controlling ability in a lot of things. Now, if I ask any of you, if I ask Rajendra, like what are these 2 particular things that you can say it's mine, right? Which you should be having absolute control of, right? So That's your
It could
mind.
be your mind and your body, basically.
Body, right? So that these two are the things that you can have absolute control if you want to. But do you have the absolute control of your mind and your body?
Not really, no, not always.
Not really. I mean, yes, if you think, oh God, Corona, don't come to me, right? It's not that it won't come to you, right? I mean, you can't control the fact of your hair getting gray, or is your teeth falling, right? Or you're aging. You cannot stop this. So you do not have the control of your body and your mind, of course not. Right? Even at this moment, I know for a fact that most of the people must be multitasking, right? A match is going on. I don't know why these people kept a webinar on such a day like this, right? So your mind is like everywhere. I don't think that anyone is like 100% focusing on this,
Focus.
right? Other than the organizing committee, because they have to, right? So there you go. You don't have the ultimate absolute control of these two. So
Yeah, true.
So then how on earth are you going to have a control of someone else's mind, right? Or the body? You cannot control. So you have to let go of certain things that you have in your mind, whether starting from your family. You can't control your wife. You cannot control your husband. You cannot control your children, even though they are your blood. You can't.
Even at office, the bosses, all that. So even you look apply to a business psychology perspective, even
Absolutely,
it's relevant
absolutely.
there.
I mean, the thing is, one thing you don't know what sort of a situation they've been through, right? Whether your boss had a bad day, right? Or he has faced series of things, that has led to a point where, like, he's about to, blast anybody who comes near him, right? So it could also be the fact that there are so many other things that's running in this person's head, and at the same time, it can be also the fact that he has his own set of attitudes. So you cannot be in control of someone else's attitudes, and you're always choosing the attitude. I mean, if you read about Viktor Frankl, his book Man's Search for Meaning, and you will see that he said that every individual got the absolute control and the choice of his or her attitude to any given situation. It's not that you have to get angry, you are choosing to get angry, right? So that's that person. Now, for example, let's say if Rajendra is my boss, right? And then your attitude towards dealing with any situation over here has nothing to do with me. It's your way of, demonstrating that. And then my reaction to it is my choice, right? Whether I choose to, speak back to you, whether I choose to adopt to the method, oh, you know what, it's not my fault, it's somebody else's, right? And put the blame game there and then walk away from it, right? Or else I come and speak behind someone's back and said, you know what, I had nothing to do with it. It's all about these particular individuals, right? Or else, I might just cry and, take it very personally. So it's always, it's up to you as an individual. So you have very less control, right? If you have very less control in terms of you, then you have even lesser control about someone else and the way someone else is behaving. So the more you make peace with this, Rajendra, I think that becomes really easy for you. Right?
True.
And
That's correct. That's correct.
And in a workplace setting, you meet so many different individuals, right? They are coming from different educational backgrounds. They are coming from different families, right? They have different belief systems, right? They represent different religions and different faiths, right? So then all of that actually adds up to a person's personality. So then this is also something you need to understand. Just like you have a sort of an opinion about something, it's absolutely fair for someone to have an opinion about something, a different opinion about the same thing. So that's okay. Right? That doesn't mean that there should be a conflict over there. And there are also situations whereas, people should realize that is it absolutely necessary to voice out certain things, whether to pass my judgment on these things. So I think there's when you talk about that, a lot of emotional intelligence comes into play, Rajendra.
Right? Which we'll touch upon later on.
So how do you effectively deal with such individuals? And the next thing, conversations. This is an absolute must. Because the thing is, for example, sometimes what we do is we assume that it might happen this way, or else we assume that this is the reason, but we do not know the exact reason, right? For example, let's say you and let's take a normal work day, right? Let's say hypothetically we work in the same place, and I come, and then you are like, I said, hi, good morning, Rajendra, and you are like, good morning, right? So then I come in to think of like, oh my God, like, is there something wrong? Like, did I do something wrong to him? Like, he's like in such a bad, mood, right? What's wrong with him? All that now I'm thinking, right? So maybe this, maybe that, but I never take the guts to go and ask you, Rajendra, is everything all right? Right? You seems a little off. I've been noticing for a couple of days, right? Are you going through something? Is there something you can talk about? Or else like, if you want to talk to someone about it, let me look into it. But we never take such steps, honestly. We have our own set of assumptions. Oh yeah, this must be this must be that. And this grows. This doesn't stop. Right? So maybe one after the other, if I come across certain situation, now you're having an attitude like that, and then somebody comes and tells, you know what, I saw this one, I heard this one has said something like this about you. Now then I'm making it a personal issue over
You
there.
make it personal. No, yeah, true.
Yeah, you
It's
go.
not a personal thing.
But if I would have taken the steps to come and ask you, right, have a conversation with you, maybe it's something entirely different, okay, which is something I failed to realize. So such things can also happen in a work setting, whereas you think it's something else, but it's entirely something else. So I always tell people, look, do not think this particular person, you are like almighty and you understand everything.
Yeah.
Right? So facial expressions and the body language that you demonstrate will not help people to understand everything as how you are trying to show, right?
Yeah,
It could
that's
be
correct.
some other issues. So conversations are essential, whether it's your family, whether it's any relationship, friends, family, parents, children, teachers, children, and then workplace, employee, employer. You need to have conversations, and at a time that we are very much high tech, right? We are becoming very less touch, and this is something we need to really focus. We have absolutely no idea what's going on in people's life, even with what's happening with the person who's seated next to you and working. We have absolutely no idea. So it's high time we actually prioritize associating people, associating humans in a proper way, right? That networking in a proper way rather than WhatsApp, email and all these mediums, right? So more than all these non-verbal ways of communication, we need to actually have proper conversations, very much verbally, very much physically.
Thanks, Rasini. So we have been getting a few questions as well on the chat. So I think let's move on to something a bit more. I mean, most of us who are here are accountants and from financial professions. So we would like to sort of understand more about business psychology, right? Sort of what, just in a brief sense, if you could sort of just take us through, like on a capstone basis, on a very brief note on what it is and what sort of what entails sort of application of business psychology in a workplace.
Okay, so see, psychology is a pretty much of a very much of an umbrella term, Rajendra. Like I told you that it is something you can't take away from any particular industry. Now, if you kind of take the industry of business, yes, so business is also about people. If you are to sell something to someone, it's about consumer. So in business psychology, it's about that particular relationship, building up very effective, positive business relationships with individuals. So you need that understanding of psychology. At the same time, a business would thrive entirely depending on how the employees of an organization, right, and how much they offer right, to an organization. So, it's not about only customer satisfaction. To be very honest, if the person who is actually providing that particular service is not happy, right, then there won't be a customer satisfaction happening in the right way. So you need to look into the employer's well-being as well in this situation. So business psychology is all about that, the well-being of the workers, of the employees, and at the same time the psychology of the organization as well. Now here, if you kind of look at it, there are so many psych tools to measure these things as well. So I will actually explain you two such tools. So by those tools, you can pretty much understand it. So in an organization, we have a very new, very fresh tool, which is called psychological capital, PsyCap. You call it PsyCap. So there you measure hope, efficacy, resilience, and then at the same time, optimism, right, in an individual, right? So for an organization to thrive, two things matter. One thing is the psychology of the individual, at the same time the psychology of the organization, right? You can't just have one thing going right, because otherwise employee engagement or that satisfaction or that productive outcome will not be something that you'll experience, right? So those things. And then at the same time, we have another thing called organizational climate. So there you have to have a very, I would say, a very nurturing kind of a climate in an organization, right? So you need to, for the organization has to be very proactive, right? And then pretty much open to risk taking as well, right? The openness should be there. The collaboration of all employees, you give that sense that you belong to an organization, right? The trust should be there. Authenticity should be there. Constructive confrontation should be there, right? For you to learn and unlearn, right? So that, that is absolutely essential. And then the autonomy. So that particular freedom for you to be your best, yes, you true that you have certain boundaries in your job role, but for you to have that autonomy going as well. And then the general development of an organization. So all these things actually are
Their
topics.
role.
That's exactly. So everything. So as you can see, there are so many, right? Which actually contributes to a proper functioning of an organization. So earlier it was more like, you give orders and then you get the outcome from people. No, but we've realized as things are getting very complex and complex in the world, and the job roles are changing now, like you said, earlier, understanding of an accountant is not what an accountant is all about, isn't it? That's the question I want to ask from you guys. Like, because when I think of accountancy, I see numbers and calculators and, all these things, right? But it's not, isn't it?
But not anymore, not anymore, not anymore. Okay, so that's the whole traditional perspective of the accountant. We see it changing, right? So that's why we thought now, for example, psychology, business psychology, those days may have been considered as a soft skill, but now it's becoming an essential, like you mentioned before. So things like that, and then the role of the accountant similarly is also evolving. So we're becoming more from number crunchers to sort of strategic decision makers, or looking at the long term, and it's like it's evolving. So I think I hope I answered your question.
No,
Uh,
absolutely. I mean, absolutely, Rajendra. Because the thing is, see, when you take the concepts of problem solving, decision making, critical thinking, all these things are cognitive psychology, right? And in order for you to get into effective problem solving, decision making, you need to have that autonomy going on in an organization, right? The employee should be able to really voice out what they had to say, right? So then they should be given the right kind of constructive criticism also. That
and the
trust should
timing also
be
is important.
invested. Very true. Very true. So all these things kind of plays a major role when it comes to business psychology. I hope that I answered
You
your
did, you did.
question.
You covered most of it. Thanks, Rasini. So just to a small message to the participants regarding your questions. So if you have any questions for us, please feel free to drop it onto the Q&A chat, which is right on the bottom task toolbar rather of your Skype screen. And also regarding the CPD, so at the end of this, towards the end of the session, we'll share a link. So you can obviously use that link to log in your details. Don't bother putting your membership numbers or names on the chat box. We'll send a separate link for that, and then you can sort of claim your CPD thereon. Rasini, moving on. So I think we covered a bit about business psychology, and now I think something that I am passionate about, which we'll talk about, is emotional intelligence. I think you touched upon it a few minutes ago. Uh, just give us, I think, before we go into depth about all looking at certain scenarios where it's applicable, just a broad understanding to the viewers on what emotional intelligence is, and sort of in a broad, in a very condensed manner.
Okay, so Rajendra, emotional intelligence is pretty much now. Earlier, we paid a lot of importance to the concept of intelligence, and initially it was like this one particular component, and then it came into multiple intelligences and all of those things. But then later on, like psychologists and researchers realized that it's not just intelligence or then your ability or to complete a certain task that actually matters, because when you're dealing with people, right, what's the most important thing that actually impacts an individual are their emotions. So we can't take away emotions from an individual. So then you must be the most productive person, you must be the most intelligent individual, but then if you let your emotions take control of yourself, then you are actually unable to be your best, to be very honest, and you won't be successful in life. So then emotional intelligence is nothing very complex. It's about having, your emotions, and then, the extreme opposite, your rationale, in a more balanced manner, right? That's all,
And
right?
also, I think you need to master the ability of judging others as well on sort of their through body language, and also, for example, if even approaching
Very
your
true.
boss or managing your boss. If you were go say, for example, something simple on basically asking a day's leave or something like that, something simple. So it's all about knowing what time to approach your boss. So if you feel
Very
that
true.
your boss, you need to be able to have a skill where you that also I feel plays a part of emotion in the
Very
whole
true.
context of emotional intelligence, where sort of you need to know the right time and place to do certain things. So for example, if you feel your boss has come out from a meeting and is very irritated about something, or at that point, if you go and say, "Oh, sir, can I?" or "Madam, can I have a day of leave?" That's the bad way to go around. You might get the day of leave, obviously, because you're entitled to it. But also, you might get offended in the thing.
Oh no.
You might no, you may it may be definitely an exchange of words, which is unnecessary. So just
Very true.
give us some tips or your thoughts on how to sort of embed things that help us read body language, help us sort of, especially in the workplace, how to understand others. So like you said, knowing yours. I think emotional intelligence is knowing
Yeah.
yourself as well as trying to understand what others, how they react
Very
to
true.
things and their state of mind. So just give us some tips on how at a workplace what you feel can sort of help all of
Of
us.
course, of course. So, if I'm to give you like a very short crash course on emotional intelligence, so emotional intelligence basically has like 5 components, right? One thing, it's self-awareness. Then you have self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills or relationship management, right? So, self-awareness is all about understanding oneself, the emotions that you are going through, acknowledging it, right? It's not just understanding the fact that, oh my god, yeah, I'm getting angry now, right? So sometimes most of the people think, oh yeah, emotional intelligence, self-awareness is understanding when you're getting angry. It's not that. It's actually understanding a thought behind what is causing that anger. So for example, I say that anger is always a secondary reaction, Rajendra, right? Anger won't just pop up like that. Anger has different reasons behind it. For example, if you're frustrated, you get angry, right? If you're, let's say, you have work overloaded, yes, that actually directs to anger. You're guilty for something, you're fearful of something, there you go. Secondary reaction would be anger. So it's also understanding the thought behind it. So self-awareness is absolutely essential. I mean, monitoring Even let me tell you, I tell individuals, I don't think this is like child's play, but to have a mood graph with you, right? For
Okay.
example, 0 to 10, right? You can
Okay.
have like a small, like a notepad with you, even when you go to work. Like, so when you wake up, you can rate where my mood is now, from 0 to 10, 0 being really bad, 10 being really good, right? Where is it? So maybe you'll wake up every day with a 7, right? And then, you sit down for let's say a board meeting or something, and then it drops down to 2. Right? Then you can pretty much reflect on that and see, so what made my mood go to 2 in that boardroom? What happened? Right? It's about reflecting and analyzing it. Right? For example, let's say for me, now hypothetical only, Rajendra, since you are the one who's only here, right? Let's say, like, I'm really cool, chill, and then I meet you, we have a conversation, and then I see that my mood is again like around 2 or 3. Right? So then for me to understand, when I meet this individual every day, right? At that
There's some
particular,
trigger.
whenever I meet him, this is going down. So then it will actually help you to avoid certain individuals also. And then let's
If
say you're in
possible,
a
if
situation
possible.
where you cannot, yes. So for example, now since I know Nayantara, right? I'll take Nayantara also. I hope she won't be offended by this, right? So let's say Nayantara comes to work, every very nice, like in her best attire and all that. And then, suddenly there's somebody at the workplace, oh my God, Nayantara, you have put on so much of weight. What's wrong with you? Right? You've been just swallowing food at home or something. So when you throw a comment like that, there you go. Right? And then sometimes, for you to even make peace with the idea, no matter what I wear, how much of weight I lose, this person will have something to say. Right? So the more you make peace with certain individuals like that also, because certain individuals have the ability to elevate your mood, at the same time, really take it down. So then maybe once you have that proper understanding, proper awareness, then you can effectively deal with your emotions. Right? So you will not have emotions affecting your work situation, because to be very honest, we have 27 emotions, Rajendra, right? And then you display about 2 million emotions a year. That means you take emotions every day to your work, right? So this is how pretty much critical it is. Okay.
True,
So
true.
then that awareness, then like you rightfully said, self-regulation. It's not about putting your emotions in a lockdown position, saying, okay, it's okay, let me not deal with it, I don't want to think about it, I don't want to deal with it right now. No, you have to deal with it, right? Because there's no delete button in our system. You're gathering all these things, all these issues, you're repressing it, right? You're not forgetting it or deleting it. So then you need to effectively deal with all those emotions, right? For example, I
Then,
tell 3 situations you should never ever make a decision: when you're extremely happy, when you're extremely sad, and when you're extremely angry. And those 3 situations, their judgments are absolutely clouded. That is why they are angry. That is why they are so happy and euphoric. That is why they're so sad. So no matter what you say, it's not getting communicated through to that individual, right? So like you said, when your boss is in such a mindset, never ever go and start up a conversation, because it's going nowhere. Right? You have to even explain something to someone when they are in a very neutral state, where they are able to understand and see things. So no matter how much you try to even make your children or your wife or your husband understand something, when they are in that level, it's pointless. They are anyway in that situation. They are anyway, their emotions are at such a situation, because their judgments are cloudy at that time, and they
yeah,
don't
yeah.
see things right.
And I think you need
And
to
also,
also
Raj,
analyze this, no? You need to be aware of, or you need to
very
just be
true.
observant and be self-aware of all these situations that
Very
are
true. So
around
you
you.
have to have the patience also to actually, see, most people come and ask me, oh, can you like read my mind? I said, no, I can read your body language. Right. So to see, if you see that, people are trying to cover up their vital parts in the body, they have their hands, like this when they sit down, even, when they do things, all these, they touch their body like this. So all these things indicate the fact that they are nervous and some sort of an issue it is happening. But people can do this because it's too cold also in the room. So you have to see into those also, right? And other than that, yes, so the way they sit down, the way they approach you, right? So if you have patience, and you can very clearly observe this individual, have patience to listen as well, because listening itself is an art, right? So when you have, then you will know that what's the right time and the right avenue to actually talk about your thing. For example, let's say Rajendra, let's say I have to communicate something to you, but I'm really emotionally activated at that point. Take a break, whatever it is, at least a loo break, right? I tell people, okay, deep breathing really helps you, like will really helps you, right? 5 times when you're really, you feel like some nasty thing is gonna pop out of my mouth right now, and you really need to completely take you away from that particular situation. You need to withdraw from that situation, and never ever go into decision making or a conversation when you are emotional. And also, Rajendra, you need to effectively deal with emotions outside of work as well. So, I mean, for example, getting into workouts, right? And at the same time, there is a very good technique called adult coloring. I don't know whether you all are aware of it, but it works as a medium where it gives you like the effect of meditation, to be very honest, right? So let's say even from your workplace to your home, when you're going, you engage in that coloring, or you take a little bit of time off, you do that. That builds your focus, that builds your concentration, and that really relaxes you as well. So there are some relaxation techniques that you can do as well to calm yourself, to soothe yourself, right? So there are a lot of things, lot of such activity, getting involved in solving puzzles and all those things will actually give you that particular control when it comes to dealing with problems, right? So that is something you need to understand. And also to think of the fact that, see, if you kind of think about what's the best time in your life, for example, if an individual say it's my school time, right, was the best time in my life, right? And at the same time, have you ever felt, like heartbreak, disappointments, frustrations in that time? Yes, of course. So it's a part of life as well. So even at your workplace, dealing with different individuals, of course, these things are anyway, it's going to be just like life. Right? So having that kind of mindset to deal with it also, and then really good, very healthy conversations. So that's number 2. Number 3, all individuals should be driven with intrinsic motivation, Rajendra. If you're focused, if you're driven in your job for external, I would say things like extrinsic motivation, for example, let's say fame or an award or money or whatever it is, your drive is very limited. Once you achieve that, from there onwards, you'll feel like, oh my God, I don't have anything that drives me.
You lose your motivation, basically.
Exactly. So the motivation should be the fact that every day when I wake up, I'm looking forward to learn something new. So get involved in sort of work that really challenges you, helps you to be your
best. That's important.
Yeah. And also, Rajendra, I always tell this, look, everything in your workplace might not be 100% good, right? There could be things, but at the same time, there could be few things that you like about it. So try to focus on what you like about your job, right? At this point, let's say you don't like anything, but at least this job is giving you financial freedom. It's a good enough reason to be in it, right? So rather than focusing on all that negative, right? Focus on the fact, okay, this is essential for me at this moment, right? And I'm going to focus on this. I have individuals who come to tell me, you know what? I have a boss who's a bully, absolutely a bully, right? There's nothing good about this individual, right? But I love my team. So I ask, what do you love about it? I love my team. They're so amazing to work with. So I said, yeah, so stop focusing on the boss, start focusing on the team, right? So someday maybe the boss might even realize that you all are a fantastic team, you have. And some individuals say, I hate the people I work with, but the thing is my boss is so empowering, so amazing, right? So then there's another good point to focus on. So then from there, we come to the fourth component, which is empathy. I think the most beautiful quality any individual could have. See, when you have empathy, when you are able to understand something from someone else's perspective, you need to also know that it's not your opinion that matters only, right? You need to see a conflicting situation in most case scenario, that there's a her side, his side, and a complete different side also. For example, let's say Rajendra, me and Nayantara, like, so that's she's the only person I can come to. Yeah, let's say me and Nayantara, we come to you with a problem, right? So let's say we cannot work together and we have issues, right? Now let's say for you, you must be knowing Nayantara so much, right? And then yes, maybe there could be a bias towards her, but then if there's a conflict, there are two sides to the story, right? So you need to have that patience to listen to my side of the story as well. All right. And maybe bring somebody entirely different to this particular scenario, who has nothing to do with Nayantara, nothing to do with me, to see whether, how do you see this particular situation, right? And then for us to give that open space to have a very healthy conversation, right? Rather than, because the thing is, what happens is, rather than me talking to Nayantara, I will speak to each and everybody about Nayantara. That's where issue starts, right? So the person I should be talking to is Nayantara. So then at the same time, emotional, I mean, when you master empathy, it will give you the understanding of power dynamics in an organization as well. Sometimes getting through to you will be very tough, very directly, but maybe through someone else.
Maybe through somebody else.
There you go. So it's about case studying, right? Individuals, their personalities, like what drives them, what they like, what they dislike, what time of the day that they are in a very happy and a good mood, right? Maybe towards afternoon, even with the weather changes, also people and their emotions changes. So it's more about observing, and then all of those things, and also I think fundamental, Rajendra, treat people the way you want to be treated. That's the
bottom line.
That's the golden rule, right?
So just to move on, to move on, I'm just going to take a few. Now we've got a few questions. So in the interest of time, I'll sort of just relate a question which you touched upon to the latter part of your explanation about. So there's a question basically here which says to explain sort of emotional intelligence and also this biased nature in terms of HR roles. So say for example, in an organization might not exactly be the HR division, maybe your team, right? So you might have bias towards certain people. So just in a very brief, in the interest of time, since we have a lot of questions to do, we'll go on a rapid fire basis. So we'll just do a quick question and answer. And just to, since you touched upon that, just to get your inputs on this biasness and also on the HR process, and just a few pointers on that.
Yeah. So, that's a very, very tough position to be in, to be very honest. I have a lot of heart going out to all the HR professionals. Because the thing is, when it comes to the biases of it, I think, see, lot of, I think for me, out of all the HR professionals that I have come across and the issues and everything, because sometimes, they use me as their venting process also. Because I've had even secretaries, even HR professionals who saying that, sometimes there are certain, directors in the board of directors, and then, one person after every meeting, right, would call and then would yell about the other person, and then I'm expecting the other call as well, right? Whereas they go yelling about that particular individual. So then you are like, in many of the situations, because everybody wants you to be in that decision making process, and it's a tough position to be in, Rajendra, to be very honest. So then I think mostly if you are to work in this situation, yes, with absolute attention and active listening, listen to people. That is number one. So you need to give that priority to individuals and actually show them that you are listening to them with unconditional positive regard. This is like counseling. When you're doing HR work, it's more of equivalent to counseling. So you are absolutely, without your judgments or, whatever the decision coming from your end, listen to that person entirely and what that person has to say, right? You can pretty much ask that individual, if you are to solve this problem, right, what are the solutions that you see from your end, right? And that's one other question you can point out to individuals. So what do you see? If you are to solve this problem, how would you solve it, right? What do you think are the best methods, right? So then you need to speak to any other party, any other one or two individuals involved in that particular conflict or whatever. You need to speak to everyone and give everyone the same priority is a must, right? Otherwise, because you have to be absolutely that unbiased person, whether how much you know that individual, because otherwise it's a problem, it's an issue regarding your integrity in your workplace, right? So that's one.
And maybe the most talented person might actually not get the opportunity if you allow that bias to sort of get across.
Absolutely, because sometimes, Rajendra, you might have your preconceived thoughts, or your ideas, your beliefs about a certain individual, which will actually act on your decision. So it's going to impact your decision, and then the fault must be entirely somewhere else, right? Which you might not see. So then there's a lot of injustice happening to that individual. So over here, what you need to do, listen to everyone carefully, take away you as a person, as in you as a friend or a colleague or whoever, take away that character. Because the thing is, you in your professional setting, you're a professional. That is what you need to understand, right? So all these relatives and everybody, friends, will be outside of work, but not here. And then I think a solid explanation should follow for your decision. I've taken this decision based on these things. It's nothing personal, right? But it's absolutely essential for the workplace also. And also, I think such things should be acknowledged to the other employees as well. I mean, in a professional setting, you can't be bringing your family or these relationships or anything into picture. You can't. That absolutely destroy the integrity of you as a professional, and at the same time, the integrity of the organization as well. So listen to people very carefully, withhold your judgments that you have to say, analyze things, right? If you feel like you need extra help to actually deal with this situation, make sure you seek help as well. So go easy on yourself as well. That's another thing. So if you need to maybe get the collective decision, speaking to your superiors, speak to them, right? Or else maybe if you feel like someone else entirely who's different to this particular scenario should listen to this problem and make a decision, it's okay to seek third party support and help as well. Right? So there's no shame. I mean, it doesn't actually, because you know what, Rajendra, a lot of people have this idea, if they feel that, if I'm unable to perform a certain task, if I'm unable to solve a certain problem in my organization, that will indicate the fact that I'm incompetent. It's not, right? It's not. You are in this particular organization because you're qualified, right, to be. You're competent enough to be there. But at the same time, as an individual, we do not have answers to all the problems, right? You cannot. So then at a time like that, seeking help from elsewhere is not a crime. So you need to be very bold enough. That is where, you have to have that autonomy going on. So people should be given that independence to actually even seek help at situations that they feel that they need it.
Thanks. I think you sort of summarized all the perspectives to that question, and I hope the person who asked the question was sort of got the reply that they wanted.
I hope so too.
Let's just move on. There is a long question which I'm going to try to summarize, sort of. Just
oh boy. Okay.
Of time, but it's not. Basically, I think this guy is trying to say, a guy or girl, right? He's trying to say, basically, he's new to this organization, and he's wanted to know how to break the psychological state of certain employees who have been doing the same job for years. So there have been sort of employees in that organization who have been there for years doing the same job over and over again, and they are in their comfort zone. So this organization is wanting to grow rapidly, and the new guys are trying to sort of enable this growth, but there are sort of there is a limitation because all of the existing employees who have been there for years are in their comfort zone and they don't want to uh, sort of cooperate. So, what type of sort of in brief, what do you think a few tips for this person would be to sort of manage a situation like that?
Okay, so this is actually quite a common situation, Rajendra, and that is because of the fact that it's a particular mindset that we have. We love to be in the comfort zone, right? And we are taught to be in this comfort zone since our school time. Right, so this is not a problem that is very rare. This is a very common problem. See, smaller days, we are groomed to be in this particular comfort zone, get these respective marks, go to university, and from there, you will have a secure job like this. So people would like to completely, I would say, accommodate the entire chair and sit, right? Nobody wants to sit on the edge, right? That drive, that passion, it's very rare. But I think, of course, I mean, to be very honest, nowadays you can see this drive in the young generation, right? But at the same time, there are a lot of problems happening in our university system and all those things as well. You think that you are privileged, right? When you when you pass out from a certain university with a honors degree in your hand, right, that you deserve this. Okay, so when I go to universities and talk to these young individuals, I always tell them, look, do not expect the university to be almighty and give you everything on a silver platter, right? So the world, it's changing. That the world, it's not no longer interested in your honors degree. Of course, you have to be qualified in a certain profession. I mean, for me, if I feel like, you know what, I want to be a chartered accountant tomorrow, and then I can be that, absolutely not, right? But at the
It's never
same
too late to
time,
learn if you can keep learning.
no, Rajan, no, that's a no. Right, that's a no. Okay, but but with a lot of respect, I'm saying no. Okay, but the thing is, like, over here, what you need to understand is nowadays, now if you take big multinational companies, what they're looking at is that whether you have the right set of attitudes, whether are you a team player, right, whether do you have emotional intelligence to work with individuals. So this has become, now earlier the things that were considered as soft skills have become essential skills now. Okay, whether you are very good in terms of problem solving, right? So you have certain tools for this. So if you are to break the mindset of such an individual, what you need to do is you need to push that individual. Sometimes you need to give them a certain push, right? Because from the comfort zone, what you have is the fear zone. The moment you step into that fear zone, then it's the learning zone, like the growth zone, right? So that is where you need to go. And then people do not want to go in this particular zone. They want to stick in the same place, doing the same thing, don't want to challenge themselves. So if they are not getting that mindset right, then it's absolutely essential that if you are the superior, if you are the team leader, you need to push this individual, right? First of all, have a solid conversation, right? To see where do you see yourself, right? In about another year or two. What are the things that you wish you want to have? What's your ideal self is like? So some questions you can ask, right? So if you are to be that ideal self you want to have this and that and do this, what do you actually want in life? These are the questions you should honestly ask from people, right? Whether you have this qualification or that qualification or not. When you're recruiting people, ask these questions. What do you really want in life? Getting into this job, what's your final expectation out of this, right? What do you hope to become? Taking this journey, right? And then when you realize it, and this is where, Rajendra, we need personality assessments, right? Testing needs to come into picture. Okay, so there are so many tools out there. Whoever who asked that question, there are so many psych tools out there, right? Personality assessment, big 5 traits, all these things. Apply onto these individuals. Make them take these steps, right? Take these certain tests for them to maybe have an understanding that there are so many other things that they are pretty much capable of and good at, right? And also the fact of organizing really, I would say, interesting, really path-breaking kind of training for these individuals to change that mindset, right?
Shift the mindset.
Exactly. For them to have a growth mindset, right? And take a step away from that comfort zone, because that is where, that teeny weeny line
stops.
Exactly.
Basically.
So you need to push through. So if any individual is not willing to push, then you need to push them, right? And then before you pushing them, don't just push them. Have that conversation with them. Say that you need to take such challenges in life. Do not have an ordinary life where, you do this and go home, sleep, and you wake up every day. Break that monotonous way of living, right? So then that is how I think, you need to pretty much address this very individually, Rajendra, to be very honest. And always have a mix of individuals. When you're putting a team together, make sure that you have leaders, you have followers, right? You have people who are comfortable to work with others and maybe not so comfortable to work with others. Like that, you should have a mix of individuals, right? And make them, change these partners on and off, make them sit with somebody from whom they can learn something, right? At the end of the day, talk to both of those individuals. What did you learn by working with each other? So likewise, give certain tasks earlier, like little tasks for them to feel comfortable to get into that, fear zone, right? Small tasks for them to take that step, and then you can increase the intensity of the challenger. So this is how you have to slowly break an individual, and this always depends on person to person. You can't have a certain framework and shove everybody into that thinking, oh, this will break them. No, it's very individualistic also.
Thanks, Rasini. Moving on to the next question. So I think they want to actually know, just for you to touch a bit about personality and communication. So because actually, like you mentioned, psychology is depending on mostly relating to an individual's personality and how they sort of manage themselves and how they communicate, how they resonate within themselves. So how to manage like on a personal level, what they can do, and also how to sort of I suppose focus your communications for that appropriate moment. So
right. So over here, Rajendra, I think number one is that it has to always be client-centered. Now, client-centered over here, it means when you're having a conversation, make sure you give so much of importance and priority to the person that you're talking to, right? So rather than you initiating a conversation and you're speaking, that's not going to help, right? People love to talk. Okay, people love to talk. So the first thing to get them engaged in, to ask about what they like, right? So over here, if I'm to get into a conversation with you, right, I would ask you, Rajan, so tell me something about chartered accountants. I would love to listen. I would love to learn about it, right? And tell me what got you into doing this, right? So the conversation should always be about them. If you are to build up such relationships, it should always be about that person. Very less about you, more about that individual, right? So it's about, let's say, 75 to 25%, right? So anything that you're gonna provide to that conversation, or what you are giving from your end, it has to actually come from the person you are having this conversation with, right? So more listening and less talking is, I think, the first strategy, right? Then carefully listening. And when you carefully listen, you might be able to pick many things from that conversation, where it will give you the benefit for the next question, for the next session to come, right? So you will know what to touch on, right? So this is how you build up certain relationships. Make sure that you have responsiveness happening all the time, that you are very responsive, right? When somebody calls you or talks to you, make sure you give that priority. And that priority should be given without any disturbances as well, right? No matter how small that person is, Rajendra. I mean, if let's say, for example, I sit down with a student for a session, right? And then I will always excuse, if let's say, for example, I'm expecting an emergency call from somewhere, I say that, is it okay if I keep my phone on the table, right? And so I can also think, see, who is this one? This is just a school child. I'm a professional, right? So your attitude should never play a role there, right? Leave aside your attitude. What you have done, your education, all those things will not matter at all. Your attitude is what matters, right? So there you go. You need to be humble enough to really properly engage in that conversation. Think of it as a learning experience for you as well. This is how you understand people, because every individual brings something so amazing to the table, right? Everyone's journey is different. And when you talk to them, you can learn a great deal out of their personality, at least what not to do in life. Let's say you're not learning anything new, so maybe at least what not to do. Maybe he has faced a certain situation and you've done something complete with it, and oh my god, I should never do this, right?
Never touch that.
Exactly. So that itself is a learning. So you have to be very humble to actually engage in that conversation, and at the same time, make sure you give importance and priority to that individual. Make sure you make them understand that their time is very much valued by you, and there's absolute attention. There's I would say that very, very selective, like you're not disturbed by anything that is happening around you, and you are really engaged in that conversation. Right? So this is actually the first step to pretty much understanding certain personalities. At the same time, you can do your little bit of case studying as well. For example, let's say before you go to a certain organization, try to find out about that organization. Try to find out about the leadership in that organization, right? But that doesn't mean that your decision should be based on their perception of that, right? It should be based on how you feel about it. But there's nothing wrong in asking. So then even when you go to work, try to learn about everyone around you, whom you are working with, what they like, what they dislike, what are they passionate about, right? What drives them. So it becomes really easy for you to actually blend into that. But that blending doesn't mean that you dilute yourself. You need to understand you are indeed a very special person, a very different brand, right? Altogether, right? But at the same time, whenever there are opportunities and situations, you can blend into them as well, right? So that is, I think, and
That's very insightful.
at the same time, Rajendra, don't be a stuck up and think that, oh yeah, my opinion is the opinion and should be accepted by everyone. Just like you have an opinion about something, other people have their opinions as well, right? So this is another sort of a respect that you have to have. Just like I'm coming with a certain solution, other people have their own solutions that they bring onto table as well, and you should not be offended by those solutions or those opinions and all those things. They are having those opinions because they are different personalities. So this is actually very effective even in your home as well. You need to respect any person walks into your life as a very different individual, a very different person, right? Your husband is not you, your wife is not you, your children, they're definitely not you, right? So
right. So in the interest of time, let's sort of move on there. We have about 3 or 4 questions to finish off in the next 15 minutes. So I'm just going to move on to a related question. So relating to this communication and all what you covered now, being an introvert in an organization. So there's a question which says, being an introvert, how can you handle stressful situations? So, and also they are sort of asking in a situation where your boss sort of asks you to do additional things that what you're required to do. Say, for example, you have a JD. All of us in general have a JD, but then there can be certain things, ad hoc work you do get, which is somewhat related. But
Okay,
there
you need
can
to
be
tell me what
sometimes,
JD is now.
yeah, it's a job description. Sorry.
Oh,
So you have certain things sort of listed down as your responsibilities. But an introvert who sort of gets bombarded by their boss with additional work which are not related, maybe to their, or maybe make a presentation for a webinar that they're doing for some personal thing. Things like that. A few tips on how, especially for introverts, how to sort of manage situations like that, and I think that's what they're getting at.
okay. So, Rajendra, first of all, whomever asked that question, being an introvert is not a negative personality trait. Okay. So, being an extrovert doesn't make you exceptional, also. We all, as individuals, have these personality traits in us. We are introverts and extroverts in all situations. I mean, there are moments that we want to be alone, isn't it, Rajendra? There are times that you don't want to have anybody around you and just want to be alone, right? So that cannot be labeled you as an introvert. So yes, maybe introvert means, okay, so you do not like people, you don't like to pretty much be around people all the time, or maybe you have certain anxieties to deal with people, social anxiety, or public speaking anxiety, all those things. So then I think if you are given such tasks in life that you have to go and perform and all that, I think number one thing should be, before you accept something, make sure you have that hunger to learn. See, if you want to develop yourself to be a better speaker, if you want to develop yourself to be comfortable around people, it's possible, right? It's possible. I was a terrible, horrible speaker, believe me, right? I was absolutely miserable when it comes to speaking, but then it was a matter of growing. It was a matter of developing myself. So then, rather than calling yourself, I'm an introvert, this is not my cup of tea, all these things, have that attitude of learning about it, and at the same time seeking help. I mean, of course, you can take coaching, you can take public speaking coaching, you can take life coaching, right? And if there are things that you feel like you want to enhance in your life, of course there are so many mediums and methods to do that. Now let's say, for example, if you are given such tasks, then you should also have the guts and the courage to go and have these conversations with your superior also, saying, sir or ma'am, this is a little tough for me, right? But that doesn't mean that I don't want to do it, right? If I want to do it, can you help me with this? Can you provide me a certain support system, right? I want to grow up. Now if you go and have an open conversation like that with your boss. Now, for example, Rajendra, if I come to you and tell you this, Rajendra, I have to deliver this speech, but then I'm not finding it, I'm not confident to do that, right? How can you help me to do this? Then maybe you can actually help me to get enrolled with a certain coaching service or something like that, right? So when it's a matter of seeking and asking help, where most of us, we are not doing, right? Because we think that if we ask, that's going to bring us so many other issues, right? So what if people start thinking about this about me? What if they think I'm a failure, I'm a loser, right? What if this impact my job and all those things? So you anyway bring that nervousness, that insecurity to your workplace. So stop bringing that, right? I think worst case scenario, you can lose your job, but it's worth asking, isn't it? Right? At
And
least.
even maybe it can be your colleague, it cannot be that individual who is sort of putting you in a difficult situation. You can always reach out, I suppose, to all the others who are around you, maybe
Exactly.
your colleague, maybe another,
Absolutely.
another senior person. You have
Absolutely.
options.
I mean, I always tell this, Rajendra, if there are only two types of speakers in this world, now, since because I'm touching on public speaking, there are, the nervous ones and the liars. So everyone, they are nervous, right? It takes a lot of practice to do that. And I have personally coached so many individuals who have now become really good communicators and public speakers. So it's just a little, it's just a matter of actually learning about it, right? And then mastering it. So it's a possibility that anyone can do. But then you need to have your heart and soul in it. That's the only thing, right? You can't be just putting that label on you and accepting that label and think that I'm not going to go from here, and then take no challenges, right? And then, expect to just live life that way. It's not going to work out. So then how you can do is, yes, first of all, have that attitude of learning, seek help and support to learn, and at the same time, have very healthy conversations, explain your difficulties. And maybe at times when you have to say no, learn to say no as well. Right?
That's very important.
You can't be master of everything, right? You
And
can't
you can't make everybody happy, I suppose. Yeah.
There you go. And if something is actually disturbing your mental well-being, you should have the courage to take a step and say, look, I cannot do this. You give me this particular role and I'm fine with it. I'll be exceptional at it, but this is not me, right? I cannot do this. Please assign it to someone who can really do a very good job. Right? And I'm willing to give that support as well. But at the same time, you should not stop from there. Then have that humbleness to learn. Right. So I think conversations is what we mostly do not have, Rajendra, to be very honest, because we have all these assumptions and ideas in our head that, that you really build up an entire empire thinking this is the end result, what's going to happen. And
also with COVID, I think it's harder to engage or even this communication because you're at home, right? And your boss or your colleague is also at home. So rather than being at office where you can always go up to the person, the person can see your facial expressions, your reactions, what sort of body language you are. That whole physical thing is taken out of the picture. So when you do a phone call, most likely they might be on a Teams call. Or there might be additional issues like that. So those are challenges which which people have to work around. Obviously, if there's a will, there's a way. But I think what you said is really helpful.
No, at the same time, Rajendra, also for example, ask for some personal time. I mean, not out in front of everybody, you have to explain it. Right? Because if it is an organization where they practice emotional intelligence, then your boss should be somebody who's very approachable. Your team leader should be somebody who's very approachable. Right? Whenever you need to address them and talk about something, that should be there. Right? It's not should be a place like where you have to go to the office to speak to that individual. Right? It's not. And at the same time, minimize texting and explaining things. Make sure always, if you can, take a video call, look at that person, talk to them, right? So that's much more easier rather than you excusing, saying, what, this is what you explain an entire story. No, it's about conversation. So you are given the privilege of technology nowadays. So then video calls, the voice calls, Teams call, whatever it is, make sure you have some personal time with that individual whom you need to communicate to and explain yourself, right? And you should take courage to do that, to be very honest. And again, saying being an introvert is not a bad personality trait. It's a very okay personality trait, just like being an extrovert.
Thanks, Rasini. So I think we are coming towards the end of the session, and we'll just take maybe one or maximum two more questions. So one that popped up is well-being during COVID times, sort of managing stress we covered upon before, but getting help on depression and all that. So I think what is happening is the work life. There is no work and life anymore because with COVID, even if you're on vacation, you have your phone, you have your MS Teams. So just if there's a very, very important meeting, definitely you'll have to take it on Teams. So this what type of tools can people, I think this is really a lot of all of us, I think, what can we take for maybe like tools that we can use for personal well-being? So I suppose like setting boundaries and all sorts of things. And how do we prevent this depression state of mind? Because things around us are obviously very volatile with COVID, with the currency crisis that is happening. it's very volatile. So added to that, there is this work stress and all sorts of things that are coming into play right at the moment, right as we talk. So just a few tips and maybe tools that we can use, basic things. Maybe what comes to mind?
Yeah. So Rajendra, now let's say you are working from home, and it's actually a very like a crisis situation, to be very honest. I mean, it's not easy, because the thing is, at the same time, parents have to play multiple roles as well. You have to be the playmate to your child. You have to be their peers also. You have to give them. You have to be their teacher as well. Handling all those things. So it's like you are role overloaded, and at the same time, everyone is role confused as well. And you're not cut out to play these particular roles. Now we have specific social roles for people, right? So that's absolutely not happening. So then this itself is quite a massive stressor. I would say over here, number one thing, if you are to change your mindset, it's about adaptability. Okay. So to think what you can control and what you cannot. Now, we have very less control in the situation that's happening around us now. Let's go back to the individual who spoke about, I forgot that also, Mr. Charles Darwin. He said
Okay.
survival of the fittest. The animals who adopt to change are the ones who survive, right? So we have to go to that very basics. So it's about, understanding and making peace with the factor. What's the worst case scenario that can happen? It's death, right? Death to you, death to your loved ones. So if we are to avoid that, what do we need to do? We need to keep ourselves safe and, adhere to all these health protocols and everything, be at home. So then, yes, peace is made over there. We have to do it. We have no other way, right? And then let's take it from there. Okay. Then, like I said, it's about not being positive. It's about looking at optimism, right? So what is there, to be happy about? And there are absolutely so many things, Rajendra. I'm not giving you all a motivation speech at this time, but even being thankful, being very grateful. I think gratitude should be the best attitude at this time. Yes, it's terrible, horrible. You might actually have a massive complaint list. If your children are going through issues, and if you're going through issue, take a small piece of paper, right? Put a column, like take 2 columns and write what I don't have, and you can have your entire complaint list written on one side, and then on the other side you can write what I have. You can start from the fact that you have a beating heart at this very moment, not about the next moment. I'm not talking about tomorrow, day after. At this moment, you have that very comfortably, effortlessly breathing, right? Without taking a break, right? And that is why you are able to spend your time with your family. You are able to do a particular job, all these things. And then you have a pair of lungs where so many people are ventilating through life support at this time, right? Be thankful to each and every body part in your system, right? And then be thankful to the fact that if you do not have a chronic illness that's in you, be very grateful that when you wake up every day, you all have a job to wake up to, right? Where many do not, right? Even if your children are complaining about online education, tell them, at least you have online education. Your life is not on a standstill. You're moving, right? There's always that, right? So it's about, I think, mostly as individuals, we have two extreme areas that we live. One thing, we are so focused about what happened in the past, which we have no control. And then we are so focused on what's going to happen in the future, we have no idea of what's going to happen. I mean, imagine in 2016, if you answered the question, how do you see yourself in 5 years from now? Did we ever expect to see ourselves like this?
Wearing
Right?
masks. No.
There you go, right? So you can't, I mean, even tomorrow, I mean, none of us over here, the 183 people who are over here, none of us can give a letter in writing saying, I'm going to live tomorrow, isn't it? But dwelling in these two, which we have no control, what we are forgetting and losing is, Rajendra, living in the moment. right? This moment, this very moment, you can do something, right? The moment gone, it's into past. Then you can't do anything about it, right? So that is something you should focus on. I mean, every day at this moment, like try to live in this particular moment. Be very grateful for this moment, that this moment you have all the power and all the strength in the world to make a decision, you know, even to make up with someone, you know, if you're pissed, if you made a friend pissed off yesterday, or you said something really nasty to one of your colleagues, now, you know, rather than thinking I'll tell it tomorrow or something, say it now. Because if tomorrow your colleague is no more, you will live with that regret. Oh my God, I should have made up with this person. I shouldn't, you know, why I didn't do it. So, you know, I should have, could have is something that, you know, you should avoid in life, right? So take action right now. Doing all that, having that particular mindset to live, and having gratitude playing as your best attitude, it's a practice that you can even teach your children. I have told my kids to have a happy jar. Now, if there are parents here, so every day, baby, before you go to sleep, write one thing that brought a smile to your face, right? And then at the end of the month, you can see how many moments like that have been there in your life where you were happy, right? Because we focus on the all negative and the ugly things in life, we do not focus on the happy moments. It can be very little, something very small, right? That just, you know, made you smile. So just write that before you go to bed. If you go to bed with a thought process like that, it's a very good way to finish it off. And then also another tip to actually have this balance, make sure you don't have an entire month or week planned. No, do things day to day. As in, if I'm to elaborate that, for example, Rajendra, before you go to bed today, try to have a to-do list, like a small list of tasks which you have to do. Do not fill it up with a lot of things, right? If you have, so you need to prioritize your time. So if you have deadlines, if you have important things, make sure that comes first. And then other things also. Even you have to go easy on yourself. Even the phone calls you need to make. I mean, for example, let's say if I have to make a call to, I will also write that, okay, call Rajendra, right? Arrange the meeting with Nayanthara. So I would also write that as well, because you can't expect you to keep everything in your head. Rather than putting it on your phone, as you know, into Google Drive, whatever it is, write it, right? That way works. If your phone crashes, there you go, your entire planner, it's crashed, right? So make sure you have it in a journal or somewhere where you write it down. And at the same time, make sure you just see if your husband and you have to share duties and even your meal plans, right? So I cannot prepare dinner at night because I have this work. Okay, so can you arrange something for dinner? Right? Or else can you make something? So that also make sure you have those conversations happening as well, which will make your stress level much more lesser. Find certain activities for your kids to involve in when you are working. I mean, for me, of course, I have got my kids to involve in puzzle making. I've got them really custom made puzzles. If you need any contact details about it, I will share it with you. They do really nice puzzles with any of the themes. Like I'm especially telling this to parents, and they love it, right? They love it. You break it and you make it again. It's like you're making a new thing entirely. And also in your home, make sure you have a particular place where you work. Do not take your work everywhere around the house, right? When you have your table, when you sit there, you're working. So then your kids will also, they imitate or they model their parents. So they know when you sit down there, that means this is a place where you are working, right? And at the same time, it's very tough, Rajendra, especially with children, because there's no reinforcement that happening into their system saying that it's your time to work. You wake up, you're in your pajamas, you drag the laptop, keep it on your lap. How on earth are you going to get signals saying you're here to learn? No. So you need to make that environment. Even for you, get into a proper attire before you sit down and work. Make sure you're ready, like even with your makeup, even with a very iron shirt or a top, whatever it is, so that even for a quick call, you are always ready. right, to do that. And at the same time, have certain alternative plans as well. I mean, have certain snacks ready whenever, you're, because I always tell my kids also, I don't know whether food evaporates in your system, right? They're hungry all the time, they want something all the time. So make sure you have all these things planned as well, so it'll make your life a lot easier. See, parents, they always get guilty because of the fact that they think that I'm unable to spend quality time with my children. Now I'm working. Your children are not looking at how many hours you spend with them. Even if you spend 5 to 10 minutes with them, giving them that absolute attention, they really admire it, right? But you need to give them undivided attention, right? That's what matters. So do not get guilty, right? At the same time, please have some me time for yourself as well, right? When you kind of look at what is important, what is urgent, when you kind of take the urgent important matrix, we mostly forget the important things as well. Exercise, working out, right? That releases endorphins, which will fight with your stress hormones. Do that. Do it for yourself. It's not urgent, but it's absolutely important. Getting a good sleep, right? That's essential. It releases melatonin. If you want to look younger, that's the best anti-aging substance you can, do and use, right? So even to get a good sleep, there are so many things you can do. If I tell very quickly, Rajendra, have a warm glass of milk half an hour, 1 hour before you sleep, right? And then stay away from screen and phone lights half an hour to 1 hour before you sleep, because this particular light that's coming from the laptop,
The blue light. No?
Yes, that actually activates your eyes, so you won't be feeling sleepy, right? Do that. And then that doesn't mean, when I talked about the warm glass of milk, that doesn't mean that you have a heavy meal around 8:30, glass of milk at 9:30 and go to sleep. No, have your meals early, right? Glass of warm milk before you sleep, and then go to sleep. At the same time, take this is like the most effective method. If you are to fall asleep, take the most uninterested book, right? It could be a very big book of numbers, chapters and all that. Go to bed with the book, half a paragraph done, you have instant sleep. Like, this has always worked for students. I told them, like, take the subject you hate the most, go to bed with that book, and you will instantly fall asleep. Okay. And because as a student we have this experience, right? And at the same time, if you have a workout at night, it will really enhance your sleep towards night. So make sure you get a proper sleep. Make sure you adjust yourself to a certain routine, right? Just because, don't try to sleep in afternoon, so that it will impact your sleep at night. So all these things you can do. Adult coloring is a very good thing. At the same time, when you have little kids who engage in coloring, it will make them real understand that you're involved in something that they love as well. They don't understand your concept of coloring, but they feel that oh yeah, Ami or Apache is doing something that with me, right? So make sure you have those kind of activities as a family. It's never about doing very complex things or going out. Even at home, maybe you cleaning one particular room, washing your family car, or some sort of activities like that involving kids is something. The best thing, have conversations. Just like you are going through issues, your kids are also going through issues. That is why the youngest stage of getting anxiety and depression nowadays, it's 3-year-olds. Right? If you're a 3-year-old, you're prone to anxiety and depression, and it's not something easy. For it's very difficult for kids, because a massive portion in their life is being taken away from them. They learn criticism, sarcasm, all these things through school and associating peers. So you have had a childhood, they are not. So pay attention to them, right? If you observe they have they have issues in terms of eating patterns and their behavior, if they're seeking isolation, these things are danger signs. Make sure you talk to them, ask them how are they feeling, encourage them to really speak up about their problems and their struggles. And also you need to really have a venting out process as well. If you feel no family member would understand me, speak to a therapist. Like that will be your venting process.
Thanks, Rasini. So, in the interest of time, just a 2 minute question, and then this is the last question. So we'll take it off, and then we'll try to wrap it up in 2 minutes. My take of the entire session, it was an amazing session. So what I would say is, if you stay positive in a negative situation, you win. So that's why, despite everything that's going around, that's my perspective of the
Optimism,
entire session.
Rajendra, optimism.
Optimism, exactly. So it's optimism. So just two things, two small questions. One is, there's a question on the Q&A just asking, say that a person is really interested in business and psychology. So is there a way that they can do both, and they would like to hear your experience, and also your
Absolutely.
closing remarks on the entire session and your final message to the viewers, so that we can wrap up in about 2 minutes.
So whoever asked that question, please, yes, you're gonna get so much of benefits by learning psychology. You can specialize in business psychology, you can specialize in organizational psychology, right? So, and at the same time, you can get into research as well. At the same time, there are so many psych modules in HR as well. So your learning psychology is not going to go for a waste. It's absolutely going to help you. At the same time, for how you can pretty much be a gatekeeper in many of the situations. You don't necessarily need to have the counseling skills learned, but a proper understanding about these things and concepts and humans and personalities. It's really, really gonna enrich your knowledge, at the same time your work ethics and your work capacity also. So please, there are so many opportunities and all these things available. So definitely organizational psychology, business psychology will absolutely give you that knowledge. And coming into talking about my overall experience, a big thank you going out to Nayanthara, who first of all reached out to me. Thank you so much. And I had the privilege of having a very fruitful conversation with Rajendra also. And thank you so much, guys, for giving me this honor and considering me a credible person to come and speak to you all about it. It's indeed a great honor. And like I said, it's always so refreshing to meet new individuals as well. So I hope that it was a fruitful session for you all as well. You can, of course, reach out to me, even after this session. And through Mind Heals as well. We have opened this particular platform where, with the concept that anyone can reach out to anybody at any given time, having that confidentiality maintained at the same time in your own comfort zone also. So www.mindheals.org is our URL. And then also, please, Nayanthara, you can share my contact details also, my email and even my contact number.
And even LinkedIn, I think people can
Yes, of
get in
course.
touch
Yeah,
with you
I'm on
with
all social
LinkedIn.
media. I'm on all social media platforms, on LinkedIn as Rasini Bandara, on Facebook as Rasini Bandara, and then on Instagram as @Rasini Speaks. So even though I don't understand these small terms, you said that JD, right? What you said? Oh yeah.
Job description. Description. Yes.
So Rajendra was being like we say the hip Generation Z, right? With all those terms, he threw a couple of terms like that to me also. But thank you so much, and Rajendra, for actually having being such a wonderful moderator. I mean, it was like a conversation over a coffee. So thank you so much for making it so easy for me also.
My pleasure. Thanks, Rasini. So just a shout out to everybody, and thank you for joining. Just a reminder, please use the link in the chat box to claim your CPD. And as Rasini mentioned, if you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to her. On behalf of the entire YCAF team, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to Rasini for taking time off your busy schedule to spending an evening with us, despite all the other things that are going around, even the matters. So thank you very much. And thank you once again to all the backstage crew that helped us sort of make today a reality. There's a lot of effort put in. And to the YCAF team and all the stakeholders, thank you. Good evening, everyone, and hope you all enjoyed this session. We hope to bring another YCAF Knowledge Forum session to you very soon. hopefully in the course of next month. Thank you. Thanks, Rasini, and thanks, everybody. Good night.
Thank you so much, Rajendra. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and also for patiently listening. Huh? I mean, we amidst of all these critical issues that's happening around us, still you were able to take your time off also. So a lot of respect and a lot of love for all of you. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.